32 NFL camps, and, of course, each and every day out at our own camp in Owings Mills for all things Ravens. Luke Jones will be on the scene there. You can follow along on Twitter, and if there's any breaking news, it comes to you first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. We're also streaming out on Facebook Live on my personal page, as well as out on YouTube at WNSTV's channel. You can subscribe, and it comes directly to you as we do it. I tell you what, the Orioles are coming directly to you each and every night as a first-place baseball team. And, of course, coming off a nice start by Dylan Bundy on Tuesday night. The bats have reawakened a little bit, and just in time to get on the road to Chicago, out to Oakland and San Francisco. Here to talk all things Orioles and Major League Baseball. He is an Orioles fan. He does have a wonderful Twitter page at JMcGuireSN, but he's also the Major League Baseball editor at Sporting News, and you can follow him at sportingnews.com as well. Justin McGuire, our defending champion, comes back in. Justin, one more time, I'll say it for Orioles fans everywhere, even Roy Firestone, who doesn't like me, the first place Baltimore Orioles. And that feels nice. It sounds nice, doesn't it?
Well, it's August, and they're in first place, so, you can't ask for more than that. I talk to you every month or so, and I think each time I figure the next time I talk to you, they're not going to be in first place. But they keep hanging around somehow, some way. So, it's just, I think for Orioles fans, it's a fun time right now. Strap in, enjoy the last 2 months, because you got a team that has a chance to make the postseason.
All right, well, let's get big picture on this. Let's talk about the trading deadline, and obviously we have to talk about Bundy because, as Luke Jones has been saying and writing here at NST, it's become appointment viewing. You know what I mean? Like, when he's pitching, you kind of want to make sure you're watching because he's taking no-hitters deep here, a handful of starts into his career. This is what we've been talking about for 5 years, and the best, and I've said this long before the trading deadline, the best acquisitions are the guys who play better in August and September that are already on your team.
Well, yeah, and I've seen people make that comment already several times recently since his Tuesday start that, that Orioles maybe the best acquisition of the trade deadline for any team is going to be Dylan Bundy for the Orioles because it's somebody they already had in place, but it's a starting pitching, it's a starting pitcher that they weren't counting on necessarily 3 weeks ago that was going to be a contributor. And he's been, he's more than a contributor. He's been fantastic in his last 3 starts, including that great gem on Tuesday. And this is the Dylan Bundy that we thought we were going to be seeing, 3, 4, 5 years ago when he first got drafted. And of course, he's gone through so many health issues since then, and there's always questions. And he's been in the bullpen, but to see it actually happening, it's very exciting. I mean, this is the first time an Orioles, starting pitcher has kind of made a splash like this in his early starts in quite a long time, and I think it's he doesn't have to keep up this level of production, but if he can be a good major league starter for them for the next 2 months, that's going to help their chances of winning a lot.
Well, I mean, the way he looked on Tuesday night, looking like like Cy Bundy instead of Dylan Bundy at this point, maybe more like Bob Dylan. But either way, the pitching part of this, when you're a number 1 pick, when you're decorated, I mean, I'm still waiting on Matt Riley, right? I'm still waiting on Rocky Coppinger. I'm still waiting on Ben McDonald, right? So we could take these names back for years and years, and they've had a nice run over the last decade of Wieters being a productive guy, Markakis being a productive guy. Gausman would be the next guy in line here to say, when the Orioles are blossoming next year and they win 105 games, it would be because Tillman, Gausman, and Bundy turn out to be Cuellar, Dobson, and Palmer and McNally, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the hope. Certainly, is that Gausman, he hasn't been great all year, but he's certainly shown flashes that he's capable of being a good major league starter. And it's really, this is his first year as a full-time starter, so I think. Yeah, certainly at his age, you could see him blossoming into a top of the rotation kind of guy.
It is funny, we count on him. You're like, this is his first year. It feels like his 5th year, right? I mean, for Dylan Bundy, it feels like his 5th year. He had pitched 2/3 of an inning 3 months ago in the major leagues, but we hear their names, right? And that's a sort of a target on being a first-round draft pick and being a pitcher, right? You are the hope for the organization,
especially for this organization, which, as we've discussed numerous times, hasn't produced a really top-of-the-notch rotation guy out of their farm system probably since Mike Messina. 25 years ago. So it's like every guy is the next best hope, the next great hope. And as you've mentioned some of those names, I had to laugh at Rocky Coppinger. I haven't thought about him in a long time. But yeah,
I'm just saying, that's how old I am, man. That's how long I've been waiting. That's how long I've been suffering, Justin McGuire, you know?
Me too. I'm right there with you. But yeah, I think that, so for this team in particular, that pressure on the top, the starting pitchers who get drafted early and have the phenom label put on is particularly intense just because they've been so bad at developing great starters. So, you even talk about Hunter Harvey now, who's going to have to undergo surgery, and he's another one whose name, it seems like we've been hearing about him forever, but he's never even been in the majors at this point. So yeah, I think if these guys, if Gausman and Bundy are capable of being anywhere near what we thought they were going to be, that certainly puts this rotation in a very different light than it looked even a couple months ago.
Justin McGuire is the Major League Baseball editor at Sporting News. He's also an Orioles fan, and so we always have fun getting together and talking about the Orioles, but let's talk about the rest of the league, and let's talk about the trading deadline and how the pieces fit together on Monday. I don't think anyone here is overwhelmed by Wade Miley and Steve Pearce, and I know there are a lot of orange bleeding hearts out there that love them some Steve Pearce, and I know he's a Buck guy, but these were nice pieces for them, given the fact that they have no minor league organization, which is, once again, if I'm going to, grab the Bono light from Bullet the Blue Sky on the Joshua Tree Tour and shine it, directly on something, I'd say it's the owner, it's the system, it's the way they do things. And on the trading deadline, they couldn't get anything major done, but it still won't be held against them if there's a parade here in October, right?
Well, yeah, I think you put your finger on it. Given what they had to work with, they probably did about as well as they could. Wade Miley is certainly not going to get anybody excited, but we know he's a capable major league pitcher at his best. He's a guy who you could see him being decent over the next 2 months. And again, that's what they were looking for. They knew they weren't going to get Chris Sale. They weren't going to get a Cole Hamels deal like last year. They needed just somebody who could be a competent major league innings eater, in the fourth or fifth spot in the rotation, and that's what they got.
Well, hang on a second, because I want to talk about Miley, because you said, this is your quote now, I love writing these down when we're talking, he could be decent. What's decent? I mean, Luke and I have gotten into that. Like, what is going to be the real result? Because it's the only way you can measure it. It's baseball. It's all measurement, right? I mean, we thought John Lester would be something for Oakland. We thought last year Cole Hamels would be something. We thought Gerardo Parra would be something that wouldn't cost us Davies in this way, where we've now lost a starting pitcher. They're going to face Gonzalez on Friday night out in Chicago. I mean, literally, right? With Gallardo, no less, who they've signed. But what do we expect? I mean, we had an expectation on Gallardo. Thumbs down on that. We had an expectation on Jimenez. Thumbs down on that. Obviously, Tillman, we had an expectation that he is far superseded. Miley, for me, expectation is I want to see 11 starts. I want to see, 5-3 with a 4.15 ERA, and I want to see him get to the sixth inning, 8 out of the 11 starts. That's what I want to see.
I think that sounds reasonable to me. I'll throw away the record because I don't put a lot of stock in starting pitchers' records. But I think in terms of what you're doing in the ERA, in terms of consistently getting into the sixth, I think that's what you need him for and want him for. I mean,
if they can go 7-4 in his 11 starts, how about that, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like with this team, again, if you get them 6 innings and you allow 6 1/3, 6 2/3, and you allow 4 runs, they're going to have a chance to win. That's not great, but it's enough to put them in a position where they can probably win most of the time. What you don't need is those. The Baldo starts where you're allowing 6 runs in the first 3 innings, and you're kind of out of it before you start. And I think if he can avoid that sort of thing, that's what they're counting on.
Yeah, in my house, we watch the Orioles every night. When Ubaldo pitched, we couldn't have a legitimate meal. That would be the night we just throw something together because we don't want to wreck a good meal with that, right?
Absolutely. And, he just, you just can't rely on that guy. Although his last start out wasn't too bad, but they just didn't score any runs for him.
Well, that was almost a giveaway. I mean, as close as Buck is going to go to getting off a plane in Minnesota and just saying, well, if we win, we win. If we don't, we don't. I'm just, we're living for tomorrow, and that didn't even go well over the weekend. So
Right, absolutely. And, it's, part of the thing, too, is we haven't touched on this yet, but, the offense has not been great lately. In July, it was not nearly as good as it was in June, which isn't surprising because it was kind of off the charts in June, so a little letdown was probably expected. But I think I saw their average runs per game went down significantly. So I think they're bound to score more runs in August than they did in July. I think this offense is too good for, I think things are going to start evening up after a while. And, that's going to be key, too. If they get back to the level where they're one of the top run-scoring teams in baseball, you don't need quite as much from the starting pitchers. And, you got O'Day back now. You got, Bretton has been lights out. It all ties together. But I think, once you get that offense back to where it was, what the kind of production you described out of Miley is, it's probably about what they could expect from him realistically.
Well, and the other thing that I expected was for the Yankees to, bust it up. I started talking about it a month ago, and certainly we played him a couple weeks ago and played him well, up there. And for me, with the trading deadline, I know Chapman's going somewhere. You're just hoping he's going to the National League, right? I mean, literally, right?
Right.
Beltran's going somewhere. You just don't want it to be Texas the week you show up, right? Lucroy's going to get dealt. Look, Texas was a big winner, but again, we go back to Oakland 2 years ago, and the teams that win on July 31st sometimes don't win come October, and all trades are not good ones. And then you have teams like the Mets last year that catch fire in the second half. The Blue Jays caught fire last year in the second half. Somebody needs to be that team. I always like teams that wind up doing more at the trading deadline, especially because they know where their weakness is 100, 110 games into the year.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you're in a position, the Rangers are in a position where they're in first place, but they had some injuries. They know they've got some strengths, but they had some weaknesses to fill, and the most important thing is they had a farm system where they are able to deal from strength, and to get two of the top bats on the, not just Beltran and they got Lucroy, also two of both were listed among any list you saw of the top 5 hitters available last week. I think they would have been on it. And they ended up getting both of them, and they didn't even have to give up their top prospect. So,
well, they also gave up a king's ransom last year, as well as $23 million a year for Cole Hamels, right?
Yeah, that's the benefit of having a great system like they've had is you can do things. You have flexibility to make deals when you want to, and I think they've got themselves in a great position now where they're maybe the favorite of the American League, but like you said, it's all crapshoot. The Blue Jays made the big deals last year, and it helped them win the division. But then at the end of the day, they lost in the playoffs. The Royals made a deal for Johnny Cueto last year, and it didn't even really work out for them. He didn't pitch well for them, and they won the World Series. So like you said, you can't tell. But I think all things being equal, if you're in a good position at the trade deadline and you have the pieces to strengthen yourself, you should do it if you can. And I think that's what the Rangers did, and that's what the Indians did, and what the Cubs did. And the Orioles did what they could, and we'll see if it's enough.
Well, it's like Tommy Conwell once sang, there ain't no tomorrow, there's just right now. And nobody really wants to hear about next year, but I think the Yankees fans are probably okay with that. They raised the white flag there. Clearly, Kansas City, they had their run last year, and they're pretty much sunk for this year as well. It is for places like Cleveland or Texas or Washington or the Cubs and these places that haven't won to really go all in. Hey, the Dodgers, played full out over the week as well. Clearly, the Cubs weren't done. The Giants made a move. The Nationals have been making moves all along, and I think the Miami Marlins believe they're going to be playing some baseball in October as well. So there's great storylines everywhere, but the best race is going to be in the American League East, and Toronto and Boston, they're not going away. We're going to have an honest-to-God, I think, 3-team march right on into the middle of September in football season, and it's going to be nip and tuck the whole way because I don't see anybody sort of playing 750 ball here, but I don't see anybody playing 450 ball to go away either.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. These 3 teams obviously have, essentially played to a draw all year. And each time one, the Orioles got out to a little bit of a lead at one point. Like I think they were up to 5.5 at one point, and they quickly dwindled that. The Red Sox were up by 3 or 4 at one point in June, and they let that go pretty quickly. They started playing badly at that point. So, Yeah, and the Blue Jays. I mean, I don't know that they've ever been in for more than about half a game or so, but they stay right there. They stay right in it. And all three of these teams are good, but none of them are perfect. They all have weaknesses. They all have things they need to be concerned about in the second half. I think I looked at I think the Red Sox have more road games than any team in baseball going forward, or something like that. So. And the Orioles have more games against teams 500 or above than anybody else. So they all have their challenges going ahead. But, yeah, I agree. I think we're not going to know who wins this division. In the middle of September, we're still not going to know.
Don't bet against the Orioles at Camden Yards, though, Justin, right? I mean, home.
Well, that's just it. They're a great home team. I mean, just been fantastic at home this year.
Got to figure it out on the road.
They've been bad on the road.
Yeah, well, we're going to figure it. There's going to be life on the road next week for sure. They need to pick that thing up. Hey, tell us what you're working on out there. I know, Matt Kemp said something about Atlanta and being a baseball community. And look, man, I go back to the Tomahawk Chop. I was in the clubhouse with Ryan Klesko dousing me in champagne and Deion Sanders in the other corner. And, those guys on the 95 team when I was down there when they won. I know what it looked like. And the whole Hank Aaron thing and moving the ballpark. But, I guess it's raised a greater question for you guys at Sporting News, right?
Yeah, well, like you said, yesterday, earlier in the week, Matt Kemp said something when he was traded to the Braves. He said, I've never played in a baseball town before, so I'm excited about this. And that raised a lot of guffaws and people raising their eyebrows because I think most people don't think of Atlanta as a baseball town. So I tweeted about that, and we had a story about it, and we got some pushback from some Braves fans, and it kind of got us thinking, well, what is Atlanta a baseball town? What is it?
Well, dude, there are Braves fans everywhere, right? Because of Turner, right? I mean, literally, some kid in Wyoming is a Braves fan, probably, right?
Well, yeah, and especially down here where I live in the Carolinas, you find a lot in the South. It has a lot of Braves fans, but for years and years before Florida had teams, it was the only place in the Southeast outside of if you want to include Baltimore in the Southeast, and it's always kind of on that borderline. But Atlanta was the only true southern city that had.
Well, the Braves thought of everything from Richmond South as theirs, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know, spending a lot of time in North and South Carolina in my life, that this is Braves country to the extent that people are baseball fans. But that's where the question is. Football tends to rule in this part of the country and in so many other parts of the country. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to have our writers kind of look at that question and say, look at all 30. Well, I guess there's not even 30 because, obviously Chicago, New York, and some of them have more than one. But look at the different cities that have baseball teams and kind of look at attendance and look at trends and look at fandom and try to see what is a baseball city and what is not a baseball city. And that's kind of going to be a fun look. And I don't know exactly how that's going to end up. And I'm curious to see how he comes out in Baltimore on that because I think that's kind of an interesting question.
You know what? I may debate that on Facebook Live one day with everyone that follows along in our journey here at NST. Whether Baltimore is a baseball town or a football town. I'll let you chew on that. You can scream something out loud in the car right now. If I ask you that, Justin, what is Baltimore? Is Baltimore a baseball town or a football town?
Well, I would tell you that my first answer would be that it's a football town.
You know what someone would yell? They would yell, it's a lacrosse town.
Well, and obviously I'm a baseball first guy, and I'm an Orioles first guy. But, when I do see, this time of year, all the coverage tends to start going over to the Ravens training camp.
Well, hey, somebody asked me if the Orioles won the World Series in October, what would the parade look like? Would it be bigger than the Ravens? And I said, no way. And someone says, that's just because you hate the Orioles. I don't hate the Orioles. I'm wearing an Oriole hat for crying out loud. No one's opined and suffered more with the Orioles in any way, professionally, personally, spiritually, because of the Orioles than me. I love the Orioles, which is why I'm still all in. But there's no way an Oriole parade would look the way a Ravens parade would look. I mean, an Orioles parade would probably look a whole lot more like a Republican convention than like a Democratic convention. And certainly the Ravens parade looked like every color of the rainbow, every human being. I don't think the Orioles appeal to people in that same way at all.
Yeah, that's probably right. Now, I will say that once a team wins the World Series, a lot of people get invested maybe who weren't invested before.
I'll hear you. When they're playing Game 5 of the World Series, the TV numbers will be at 60% or something crazy, but it still won't look like the Ravens here.
Right. No, and I think you're probably right. And I think that's true in a lot of places. NFL is king in so many cities. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's an interesting question, just to look at like what constitutes a baseball town, in a football world, where NBA is obviously a big factor too, particularly for younger people and for non-white audiences, frankly.
Well, Cleveland,
So,
look at Cleveland. They're now a basketball town. Probably not. They're a football town, but, let the baseball team go win the World Series in October, which they're clearly capable of doing, right? And then it'll be a
Right.
baseball town all of a sudden, right?
Right. Well, look at Kansas City, where I think you asked somebody 5 years ago, is this a Chiefs town or a Royals town?
Chiefs.
They'd say Chiefs.
Of course.
Right now, they'd say Royals, though, because the Royals have had the success. They've had the World Series, and they've got that city excited about something for sports for the first time in forever. So I think a lot of it is about success, and a lot is about what have you done for me lately. So we see the Orioles in the World Series. I think Baltimore is going to seem like an Orioles town for a while at least.
Well, one can only hope. I like progress. I like prosperity. I like winning. I'm not going to complain about winning. Now, the management, the depth, the money being made, the lies being told, I'll tell those stories. But, they play at 7:05. I'm watching and pulling for Dylan Bundy or Tillman or whoever's got the ball, because life's a lot better when they're in first place. We can all agree on that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's more, it's more just baseball is a sport that, if your team's in a pennant race, there's nothing like it. I don't think there's any other sport that quite has that, that regular season, feeling in the late part of the season, like baseball. But, basketball, if you're a good team, you made the playoffs before the season starts. Football, I guess you have that a little bit of that, but I think in baseball, there's nothing quite like that pennant race.
Well, the other part of it is, if they win the World Series, they're going to play 86 games in the next 94 days, right? I mean, it's right. Literally, it's days of our lives, not Knots Landing. It happens every day. It doesn't happen once a week. So for that,
right.
There's a lot more to follow along and a lot more engagement, as the advertisers would say. Great having you on, man. If I give you $1 right now, you going to bet it on the Orioles, or you going to bet it on Toronto or Boston?
Oh boy! To win the division, I would not bet the $1 on the Orioles. To make the playoffs, I would.
Okay, fair enough.
I think they're going to get one of the wild cards. That's my gut right now.
Who you got it on, the Red Sox or the Blue Jays then?
A week ago, I might have said Red Sox. Right now, my gut's telling me Blue Jays.
So you just don't like the Orioles?
I love the Orioles. In fact, believe me, if you knew me, you'd know that me saying at this point that I think they're going to make the playoffs at all is the height of optimism for me.
Yeah, it's the reverse lock thing. Okay, Justin, great having you on, man. We'll send everybody out to Sporting News to keep up with what you're doing at J McGuire SN on Twitter. Great having you on, bud.
No problem. Talk to you anytime.
All right, save that second beer for me out there on your Twitter page. It's got a baseball glove and a ball and 2 beers. Justin McGuire, J. McGuire, SN, MLB editor out at Sporting News and Oriole fan. You can find me in the Bio Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. Don't forget, head coach Brian Billick will be joining us on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation and for There Goes My Hero in the Bone Marrow Registry. We'll be swabbing, eating crab cakes, drinking beer, and talking football with Coach Billick at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. Come on up to Carroll County, say hello, get swabbed, meet the coach, take a picture, pick up some fruit on the way home, and eat some delicious crab cakes up at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. I'm going to have mine fried, and I'm probably going to have like 3 or 4 because I'm just stingy like that in the summertime, and they're so tasty. That's Tuesday night, August 9th at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.